Hey, Allison Verhalen here, coming at you live for today's Marketing Monday. And today I want to talk to you about Mindshare. Everyone talks a lot about market share. Mindshare, I don't know if I want to say it's equally important. It is very important, especially in the world of marketing, but it is a term that A, doesn't get thrown around as much, and B, when it does, most people go, huh? What are you talking about? So I'm going to tell you what we're talking about. So Mindshare is, let's break it down as far as the difference between Mindshare versus market share. So hopefully we all know what market share is, right? That's very easy to define. That is the number of units sold. You can define unit however you want, whatever makes sense for your business, right? How much money are you making, right? That is, and specifically as it relates to the market overall. So, for example, I did a quick Google search of McDonald's, which, according to Google, sells approximately 6.5 million burgers per day. Burger King, on the other hand, only sells about 6,500 burgers every day. So McDonald's has a much larger market share, obviously, right? They probably also have a bigger mind share. I know I think of McDonald's a whole lot more than I think about Burger King. Maybe that's just me, but apparently it's not just me because a whole lot more people are buying from McDonald's over Burger King. So that's an example of market share, right? You can define it, you can measure it, super easy. Mind share, whole lot harder. Mind share is how much do people think about you? So, for example, we talk about Kleenex as meaning facial tissue, right? It's Kleenex is not a facial, I mean, it is a facial tissue, but it's like I always remember this from when I was in like junior high or grade school or whatever, right? We're going through geometry and the fact that a square cannot be a rectangle, but a rectangle can be a square. I don't know if you were ever taught that in school. That kind of like blew my mind when I heard that, which is why I remember it, right? Because a rectangle is defined as an object with four sides, and two sides have to be parallel and equal in length. And then the other two sides have to be parallel and equal in length, but not necessarily the same length as the other two sides. Whereas a square is defined as four sides that are parallel and equal in length. Hence, a rectangle can be a square, but a square cannot be a rectangle. So if you did not know that, or if you forgot that from your grade school days, now you remember it again. So it's kind of the same thing with Kleenex, right? A facial tissue is not defined as a Kleenex, but Kleenex is defined as a facial tissue. Not all facial tissues are Kleenex. I personally shop at Trader Joe's a lot, so I use their facial tissues, right? If they do say tissue on there, they don't say Kleenex because it's not the Kleenex brand. And yet, I still talk about reaching for a Kleenex, even if it's not coming out of a Kleenex box. But Kleenex has such a huge mind share that that's what we all think about. Same with Q-tips, right? It's not a Q-tip, it's a cotton swab, but we all use the term Q-tip interchangeably, or even in place of cotton swabs. So that is what we're talking about when we're talking about mind share. And ideally, the more mind share you have, the more market share you have. If people are thinking about you, if they're talking about you a lot, that is going to lead them to reach for your product or services when it's time to get to buy, right? Again, doesn't always work out that way. Like I said, I still talk about Kleenex. I don't actually buy Kleenex. That's just because of where I happen to shop and what they carry. But when I'm shopping at Target, I'm probably going to reach for a Kleenex over another brand because, yeah, that's the way that works. That said, there is quick legal note for you lawyers out there. There can be a downside to having, like, it sounds really awesome from a marketing perspective that you're so ubiquitous with this term that you are known as that thing. But that can actually be a bad thing because then your brand is not known as your brand. It's known as this thing, and that actually dilutes your brand. And then you might actually lose protection of your brand, because if people use your brand name all the time, not necessarily referring to your brand, then it's no longer protected. So there's actually a downside to becoming that well known and having that much mind share. Okay, that's your quick legal note for the day. Mind share versus market share. So, how do we measure mind share? That's the hard part, because now you're talking about how often do people think about you? How often are they talking about you or your brand in relation to whatever it is you're selling? Whole lot harder to measure, right? And it's never going to be 100% perfect. Again, it's not like market share where you can measure, we sold this many units and so sold this many units, so this is our market share. Black and white, easy peasy, cut and dried. Mindshare, not so much. So what you got to do with Mindshare is rely on social media. So you can use a social listening tool. Mention is a really popular one because it talks about every time someone mentions you. It tracks that and aggregates all those posts for you. So you can set up a tool like Mention. Again, there are other tools out there. You don't have to use Mention, but that is a really popular one. You can set it up so that you get an alert every time someone creates a post that mentions your brand or uses your brand and name. That can give you an idea of how much people are talking about you. Same with Google alerts. You should already have a Google alert set up for your business. So when people are talking about you, you get that. I just got a Google alert the other day, and I knew this was coming because I had submitted a quote for this article, right? And I got a Google alert saying, hey, you got mentioned in this thing, but there was no backlink. So you can then reach out to the editor and say, hey, love the article you wrote about me. Super appreciate it. Could you just include a quick backlink to my website? I'd appreciate it. Okay, thanks, bye. That's all you got. And that can help boost your SEO. But again, I mean, the backlink helps, but Google knows when people are talking about. Google does not need the backlink to know that people are talking about you. So you don't need the backlink for your SEO, but it can help. So that is an example of your brand, again, getting out there. People are talking about you. You're getting to be more well-known. If you can track that, you have an idea of what your mind share is. Again, you're never going to have it down perfectly and know every time someone talks about you or thinks about you, but you can get an idea based on social media. So you're not going to rely just on your social media posts and likes and mentions and shares. That's also super beneficial. Like, how many people are following you? Awesome. Good start, but it's not enough to measure your mind share. You're going to want to track those other things where people are not directly reaching out to you. There might not even be tagging you on social media, but they're talking about you or they're talking about whatever it is you're selling. So you want to keep track of that. Next up is all publicity good publicity? I tend to think not. I was just watching a video about a bunch of the bad press around Subway, for example, which I won't get into because I don't want to get sued. But it appears that if there's that much bad press around Subway, like, why would anyone buy a Subway sandwich? But there's still a Subway on every corner, right? They're still everywhere. So it can't be hurting them that bad. But on the flip side, they are very aggressive with their marketing and their product placement. It's hard to see anything without seeing a Subway, whether it's in the background or it's an important scene takes place in a Subway. They are everywhere. So maybe they're just balancing out the bad publicity with enough good publicity and advertising and product placement so that you associate them with good things, even if you're not aware, right? That's the sneaky part of product placement, right? You associate it with stuff that you like without even realizing that you're doing it. So maybe it's not that all publicity is good publicity in the case of Subway. Maybe it's just that they've managed to counteract it with so much good publicity that they've managed to counteract the bad publicity. Finally, we're going to talk about something even harder to measure, which is heart share. There's really no measuring this other than, I would say, testimonials are great. Surveys are great for this. Again, when you look at those mentions, the way when people are talking about you on social media and in those Google alerts, take a look at the things they're saying about you and how they're talking about you. So heart share, let me back up and define heart share. That's how people feel about your brand, right? So the first point of contact for determining heart share should be your clients. Great place to start, but it's not the only one, right? Because anyone interacting with your brand is going to feel a certain way about your brand, regardless of whether or not they've actually bought from you. So, again, with those social media posts, if you're a big brand like McDonald's, you probably don't have enough time to go through every single post that everyone mentions you, but you can take a representative sample and get an idea of how people are talking about you and what they feel about you. So, heart share is impossible to measure, really, but it's super important. So at least, again, take a close look at, if you have a ton of mentions, a representative sample. It does not need to be all of them, all of the posts. If you have a ton of posts about you, in which case that's awesome. That's a really high mind share, right? But take a representative sample and look and consider, really think about how people feel about your brand. And this is going to vary from person to person, right? So some people might love your brand, other people might hate your brand for various reasons. I talked a while back about politics in marketing. That's a great example of, some people are really going to resonate with that and they're going to love your brand for that, and other people are going to just be disgusted and loathe you and might even be mad at you because of what you're posting. Totally depends on the person, right? So you can have the exact same thing and different people are going to have a polar opposite reactions to it. So again, know your target audience and have an intention about how you want them to feel about your brand. So that way you are going to be even better at attracting your target audience, and the people who are going to be pissed at you are going to be pissed at you no matter what. So let them do their own thing. Focus on your target audience and what is going to attract them to you, and encourage them to work with you. And that is it. That is everything I have to say about Mindshare and HeartShare today. If you have any other questions, you know where to find me. I'm here a fair amount. I'm also over at AV Writing Services, as in my initials, Allison Verhalen. That is avwritingservices.com. And you can reach out to me directly at info@avwritingservices.com. Otherwise, have a great week and happy marketing, everyone.